Hello, my name is Gerry Fialka. It's November 12th, 2016, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Nedi Safa. Is that correct?
Yes.
What a pleasure. Thank you. All right. Nedi, the first question is what is the best thing for a human being?
What is the best thing for a human being?
Yeah.
Context.
Context. Wow, what a word.
Context.
T-E-X-T.
Yes, context.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, feeling that he's part of a world that's good.
Good.
That he's good.
Yeah.
The world is going forward. It's really important what kind of context we as a people in general are operating under. Are we operating under the context that we have efficacy, that we can make the world better and it will be getting better? Or are we operating under the context that is going to hell in a handbasket and only the return of Jesus can save us?
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing for a person is context.
Yeah.
And religion is being lost a lot, so it's kind of up to us to make our own context.
Yeah. Very good. What's your favorite form of information? How information comes in?
Does art count?
Sure. You mean art is your favorite form of information?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because art can be information and it can also be reframing what information you already have. But you said favorite, so I went to art.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's
so
fine.
you're asking me if I watch Comedy Central or something like that.
Sorry.
This is an
So,
active place.
yes. So, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Why do they gather information? To cope better, to solve problems. And I love science too. I don't think that you can know too much science. And I think largely people don't know enough science. Even people will say, you know, I have a pain in my lower abdomen. Maybe it's my liver. There's no liver in your lower abdomen. And you need to know at least what you're working with.
Good.
So why do they seek information? To handle things better. I mean, in the internet age, everybody gets a symptom and they're on the internet right away.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
To ask it as a why question.
Yeah, and so do you think this need or want to collect information is hardwired? Is it in humans innately, or is it something humans learn?
I think what they learn is the how. We collect information innately.
We do.
Yes.
But yeah, we learn the how.
Yeah, we learn the how from other people. And I love primates. I love primatology. I love chimpanzees and orangutan. And by the way, it's orangutan caring week.
Really?
Orangutan caring week, which could explain our election results.
That's
just so it works subliminally.
Yeah.
But they're curious too, and they'll solve problems. But I am concerned about the American public and the prejudice against information. Not the prejudice against information. The prejudice against intelligence and people who are well versed.
Yeah.
Saying that science is for other people, or science is only a process to have consistent results, and what is scientifically proven is something that you can count on. So the more that we know science, the more that we know reality. So that hasn't trickled down.
Yeah. That's good. Do thoughts create emotions?
Yes. I think that has been scientifically proven.
Yeah.
And right now, Byron Katie and some other people are working on the thoughts as a solution to emotional distress. You're probably familiar with that.
I don't know his name. Say it again.
It's a woman, Byron Katie.
B-R-Y-O-N?
B-Y-R-O-N.
Yeah.
And she's created something called The Work, which is a self-development with 4 questions. The 4 questions are you sure that's true? The thing that's distressing you.
Yeah.
Are you absolutely sure it's true?
Yeah.
How do you behave when you think it's true? And how would you behave if you didn't think it's true?
That is great. And her
people-
last name spelled what?
Katie.
Oh.
Katie. So at some point in her life, she flipped her names, but she's created a whole process called the work.
The Work. I'll look into that. Amazing.
There's some people that they count on it each time that they're distressed. Let me show you an example. Trump shouldn't have been elected. That's what I'm distressed about. Can you be sure? Can you be absolutely sure? How do I act? How do I feel when I'm thinking that? And how would I feel if I'm thinking the opposite of that?
Yeah.
You see what happens to the distress?
Yeah.
Yeah, thoughts do create emotions.
Yeah. Boy, you're the best answer I ever had for that question. Now, do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
That's not an either or. That's not an either or.
Well, then I said I only have some either or. Some of them are.
There are three kinds of happiness: pleasure, challenge, and meaning. And I think what you were trying to put pleasure and meaning on opposite ends. But meaning is a kind of happiness too.
Yeah.
And the happiest life has all three of those: meaning, challenge, and pleasure.
Yeah.
So it can be very pleasurable to even sacrifice and be uncomfortable
Yeah.
with a greater meaning.
The root of that question was Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he basically says that happiness doesn't necessarily last, but meaning does. So.
Yeah, happiness is fleeting.
Yeah, fleeting.
What about the happiness that comes from meaning?
Right, there's many layers there, definitely. And now you answered the question with a question, so you win, because that's what this series is all about, inventing new questions.
That's great. These are good questions.
Oh, well, thank you. Nedi, does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness?
That's about as serious question as you can ask.
And what do you think?
Yes. I have spiritual impulses or spiritual experiences. So I think depending on which half hour of the day you got me, I will answer the question one way or the other.
I see.
There's a brain scientist that my brother worked with that did the imaging of the brain, and his name escapes me now. It's an Italian name, and he thinks that consciousness is the end product of the fact that we're making a movie in our mind of our senses of seeing and hearing and such like that. On the other hand, yes, my yoga teacher, everything is conscious, and we're just
Right.
somebody that asks about consciousness.
And we're sort of detecting it or looking at it or observing or getting involved with it. Yeah, the question is basically, is it sitting there and it's like, and we're just doing that, or are we creating it? So usually
So
people
I'm
go
going to ask
both.
you a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Can both be true?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
It's actually called the difficult question in neuroscience. Neuroscience.
Oh, neuroscience.
Brain science.
Yeah.
It's called the difficult question. Is consciousness caused by...
Oh,
brain
that
activity?
is
Yeah, it's called the
difficult.
difficult question. And
Wow,
if
you're
a
teaching me more than I could ever learn. Thank you.
No, you
Well,
just learned
that's also, the flip is Marshall McLuhan. You mean my whole fallacy's wrong?
I love it.
What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Oh, that's fantastic. I think they're the same, but I don't think that they're a limit.
Yeah,
We just haven't found out what's past that.
yeah,
So with I do energy work. People usually call it energy healing, and quantum entanglement. Are you familiar with that?
don't know it, tell me.
That's not a new idea. That's about 100 years ago that they theorized, and they've been recently able to see it in the laboratory, that when one atom anywhere flips its charge from negative to positive, and I'm not even sure if it's a part of an atom that would do that or not, because that's not my field. Somewhere in the universe, it also has to flip the other way. There's always a balance of the yin and yang. And my experience, having been healed and then becoming an energy worker is that the speed of thought or intention is instantaneous, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world. I work on the phone with people from Singapore or India or Hawaii or Europe or wherever, and some really amazing things have happened. A woman called me from Lithuania, and she's 84, and she's no, this was email, she didn't call me. She said, my throat is closing and it's becoming harder and harder to breathe. My friends say go to the hospital, but I trust in God and I trust in you. And I start typing back. I was like, oh my gosh, go to the hospital right away, and I'll start working. And she goes, oh, it's gone now. Thank you. So this is Lithuania, and either the power of suggestion travels at the speed of light, or thought and everything is connected, and so what we intend will work no matter where the subject is.
Yeah. Do you believe?
You should try it.
I think what you said is absolutely true. But let's put in these terms, layman's terms, sort of. Do you believe in ESP? Is that similar, what you're talking about, or totally different?
It's totally possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it exists,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen it happen.
Okay.
You know, there's certainly magicians and people who fake it.
Yeah.
I'm sure people do it.
Yeah. Great.
I think, okay, I'm going to expand this
Sure.
a little bit.
Go ahead.
I think that there are human abilities that we haven't fully explored yet. Like there was a time that human beings couldn't read, but reading is just like easy for people now once they've been introduced to that. My partner Elma, the founder of Now Healing, and I feel that this kind of energy work that we do was probably a forgotten thing that humans used to do to heal each other and to help each other. Dolphins, when one of them is sick, the rest of them will surround it and blast it with sonar.
Yeah.
Why couldn't humans have a similar
Right.
ability to use their intention to help heal?
Yeah.
And sometimes you hear about tribal people singing together
Yeah.
or something like that to help each other. So maybe this energy healing, it doesn't sound like such a strange idea as it
Right.
did in 2003 when I learned it. Maybe it's something that a lot of people will learn and humans will be able to do. That would be cool.
That's very cool. And I think if we just take it even a step back, before humans there was any reading. Before
Yeah.
there was any reading,
Right.
there was just spoken word.
Yeah.
And before there was spoken word, there may have been just gesture and grunting.
Yes.
So that, what happened was as soon as we invented words, spoken words,
Yeah.
you and Elma should definitely talk to my friend Mary Jane Schultz, because she's advised McLuhan and Ivan Illich and Norman Mailer.
Yes.
And she said it caused splitterus. So the
Ooh, I
printed
love that.
word
I love that.
in the letter S is spelled with a
Yeah.
dollar sign. So what we had when we had no reading, no printed word,
Yeah.
we didn't separate the inner from the outer. Or actually, it's before spoken word. Let me correct myself. We didn't separate the inner from the outer. So no one was born and no one died because they didn't have any word for it. It just happened.
Wow.
So people didn't separate.
Yeah.
They didn't eat the radish and go, this is good, and then eat the radish greens and go, this is bitter. They didn't have a word for it. So there was no separating the outer from the inner. So that's, again, back to the consciousness. As soon as we invented words, we split our brains apart.
Was that a loss?
No, it's always, if you go about, and that's perfect lead in the next question, thank you. What Marshall McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound, a poet, is that every human invention has services and disservices. So loss implies negative in a way, but that's a pretty good word. But we tend not to say words like good or bad. Like our cell phone's good or bad, is Facebook good or bad,
Right.
is spoken word good or bad? No, it has services and disservices.
Yeah.
And what happens is you can actually suss out the disservices and learn how to flip them into a service. Or, better yet, what Pound really taught McLuhan was you can learn how to cope with what you don't like. So that's we're all coping with the electoral college system, and we're all trying to cope with popular vote system, and we're all trying to cope with elections. So that coping is the key word. For me, the greatest coping mechanism was a bunch of high school kids got up and ran out of the room and said, "We're going to protest."
Yeah.
Probably because all their teachers were behind them.
Yeah.
But that's not, in the real world, the coping mechanism, we all have to love Trump. He's a human being.
Yes.
Sorry, there's
Yes.
nothing. Frank Zappa said, you got to love the cops as they beat the shit out of you. Now that's, he's a tongue-in-cheek Lenny Bruce kind of guy,
Yeah.
but what else can you do? Hate the guy? What is that going to do?
Is that gonna work?
Yeah, and anyway, sorry to bring it up. So this is what happens is everything we invent has hidden psychic effects that we're not aware of. And Pound said that artists are the antenna of the rays. So go back to your first answer was art. They're broadcasting the hidden psychic effects so that we can suss out what's going on with our inventions. But McLuhan said we still ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though we can turn to the artists to tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
They might not know they're telling us what's going on. Dylan will deny he's telling you, or whatever.
Yeah.
Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though we can look to artists to suss them out?
Why do we look?
Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects? So
They're just
eventually,
blind spots.
they're blind spots.
They're blind spots. Yeah. You're familiar with the book, The Goddess and the Alphabet?
That guy learned everything he knows from McLuhan. Leonard. He'll
Okay.
admit, I asked his daughter all these same questions, by the way.
She's great. She's great.
Yeah,
You seen her recent films?
him and her are both great, yeah.
I
But
love-
go
I
ahead,
love
what
him.
were you going to say about it?
What was your question?
It was, why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of the things we invent, even though we can look to the artist to uncover them?
I'm going to repeat. It's a blind spot, and we don't know it until an artist brings it up.
But once the artist brings it up, we still ignore it.
That's also the common culture living without that blind spot being spoken about. Words are very powerful. Hafez said this, the words are the house that we live in.
The Persian poet
The Persian poet.
said, words are the
house that we live in. So if there aren't words for something like, even energy healing, energy working, I don't know how to explain. We don't have a good term for it.
Yeah, because
What's energy workers tell
you
you?
flip
Sounds like-
from work to energy healing. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. One you prefer more than the other. You prefer work more than.
Yeah, but it doesn't say, it connotes that like a you don't know what it is till you experience
Right.
it. Your wife experienced it, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So that was good. Let's move on. That was good. Thank you, Nedi. What do you think in general? Of course, it's both, and it depends. Context. Do you think humans are more feeling beings or more thinking beings?
I think they're more feeling beings
Yeah.
because emotions, the word emotions, are right in there. I am somebody whose thinking trips them up a lot, though. So
Yeah.
I tend to doubt and overthink
Yeah.
a lot. Actually, I just read recently that Descartes' statement wasn't I think, therefore I am. It's more appropriately translated, I doubt, therefore I am.
Really?
And that changes the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, I doubt too much. I'm unhappy when people grow up and stop learning, get into a rut. But you can't blame them because they're just coping with their lives. They're coping with making ends meet, coping with a backache or whatever.
Yeah.
But we've really suffered in America from a lack of education. back to thinking about O.J.'s trial, and the jury didn't understand what DNA
Yeah.
was, and people accepting certain things from news that aren't news.
Yeah.
I read a very disturbing book that I don't remember the name of, about how the left and how the right have separate news sources quoting each other.
Yeah.
There's virtually no one in the middle. They pointed to one periodical that was in the middle, and I don't even remember which one it was now. But
Yeah.
that's a problem.
One of the great lefty progressive journalists, father to many of them, was I.F. Stone. And he would say, "The truth as I see it."
There you go.
You know?
There you go.
So,
So you knew McLuhan?
no, I did. No. He was died in 80, and I never knew him. No.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, moving on. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever?
Yeah.
Can you tell us it?
Yeah. I was in a stroller. I was looking up at my cousin's face.
In what town is that?
That was in Chicago, but I didn't know at the time that it was in Chicago. And then we moved. I was 2 when we moved from Chicago to New Jersey. We took a train, and for some reason my mom is standing on the back part of the train, the platform, between cars kind of, and we're speaking to a black conductor, and that was fascinating to me. He was wearing a white coat, and I was scared because the railway's coming by, and she really shouldn't have been out there with 2 toddlers, but she was having fun she loves to talk to everybody, and so that was early, that was 2, but my memory goes back pretty much to 1.5, 2.
Yeah. Do you think memory is more a curse or more a blessing?
This is interesting. I've started writing incidents from my life down, and today I read that Bruce Springsteen has written, he was talking about his autobiography. He says after a while memory becomes a burden and you have to unload it. That's part of his motive for writing it down. So I'm remembering now my grandmother, who stowed away from Belarus. She got, 1914, she got in a ship and stowed away, just drank water that was dripping from a pipe, took the whole trip to America. So that was the youngest thing she was escaping famine. She said, when she was about 70, she said, "What is life? You just have more and more trauma until it weighs you down and breaks you." I think that's the worst, saddest thing I ever heard.
Yeah.
And she had a really hard life, and I don't want you to be that way.
Yeah.
So, what I was saying before about people getting in a rut
Yeah.
and not learning more.
Yeah.
So how do you look at the world with fresh eyes? How do you learn and move forward with intention or a new framework?
Yeah. Well, that's it. You're not telling me. You're asking a question. I could answer
Yeah,
it.
you
I could
you wanna
answer
ask
it by
me.
right, but I could answer it by saying she needed to have those experiences to probably find happiness in her life. But at that point in her life, she needed to word it to you that way.
Yeah.
So, in like that word. So, tell us an early role model within your immediate family, and then one outside your immediate family, and just briefly, and what specifically did you get from them? A major thing you got from them, influence-wise.
I had a neighbor who fancied herself a gypsy, Sally Fox. God bless Sally Fox. And she lived next door to us. She fancied that she could read palms. She used to walk a tightrope in the circus.
Wow.
But she had to stop after she fell without a net and had bones that were still in her back from having fallen. She taught kayaking and taught painting, and this was in New York. I grew up on Long Island, and she really stuck out from the suburban people that were around us. She came over and showed me the proof on the back of the Beatles albums that Paul was dead, and
Right.
and thought that she could play the slide whistle, but she couldn't. It was terrible. So she painted her van all yellow with big blue flowers and named her van the Kushti Vardo, which was supposed to mean gypsy wagon, but I looked it up. It doesn't mean anything. And I just think she also sold me my first guitar for $5.
Oh my God! So she had a big impact on you. Yeah. Now, how about within your immediate family?
My mom loves everybody.
So that's what you got from her, this ability.
Yeah, there are no garbage people. There are no. She says nobody's a bad person.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. She really thinks nobody's a bad person.
That's.
And like I said, I was a toddler, and she was talking to the train conductor. One time she sent me to the store to go get ketchup. See, I remember I was 5 or 6. I was too young to go by myself, really. But I stopped at the door and talked to the security guard and asked him about his family. And then I went past the donut lady and stopped and asked her about the family, because I thought that's how you got into the store.
That's good.
And then I went over to the ketchup, and I had 40 something cents, and it said 57 on the bottle.
Right.
Heinz 57 varieties. I thought I didn't have enough. Well, told my mom, and she said, no, it's 40 cents or whatever. So I went back, asked the security guard about his family, asked the donut lady about her family again.
Oh my.
And my mom last year, she hugged the trash collectors at Christmas. I said, why'd you do that? And she goes, I don't think anybody else did.
Oh,
So she's 86 now,
and living. That's beautiful. So, did your both parents raise you?
Yeah.
What religion did they raise you in?
Baha'i. I found,
They raised you Baha'i?
Well, that's a funny question, because Baha'is don't baptize, and they think that when you're adult, you choose.
I see.
Baha'i Sunday School, going back to 3, we had lessons in Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism. At least the big 5.
Yeah.
And we would draw pictures. This is when Christ came. This is what Christ did. And so I'm really happy to have grown up with that. We always had interracial families and international families in the community. So there is a quote in the Baha'i scripture: "Let your vision be world embracing." That's made a tremendous impact on me.
Yeah.
And my parents are in an international marriage. My mother's Persian and my father's American. And I grew up Baha'i, and I tell you, the happiest thing is on the back of this computer that we're looking at is a picture of all my Facebook friends, and it's really all over the world.
Nice.
I got 5,000 Facebook friends. You name a country, I got it.
Oh, cool. So, do you think, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
That's a silly concept. Evil use people as a vehicle. That's a silly concept to me. I don't think evil is powerful or embodied, except in the tiniest puff of smoke kind of sense. Again, I'm going to quote the Baha'i teaching that there aren't evil people. There are sick people who need to be healed, and there are uneducated who need to learn.
Right.
And I've found that true in my life, even the worst people.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, this question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'm going to set it up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. JFK says, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. Fellini says, I need an enemy, and a Chinese proverb goes, he who cannot agree with their enemy will be controlled by them. It's a lot of thoughts, but basically
You're blowing my mind.
Yeah, well, it's basically, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But before you start, how would you specifically react to the Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
That's interesting. I haven't thought about it. I think when he's talking about, this is my interpretation, because I've never heard this quote before, is to go on with what you're doing rather than waste time defending what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's how I think of that.
Good. So then how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy?
Nobody has asked me that question. I just read that Desmond Tutu said, to make peace, don't talk with your friends, talk with your enemies. When it will date this interview, but a lot of people are deleting Facebook friends right now because of the political situation going on. And that isn't going to make peace. You need to talk to them. So how to deal with your enemy? I'm going to say empathy. How about that?
Yeah.
If you can, this is really interesting because this brings up the question of what is an enemy.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything that people do, this isn't my idea, it's Marshall Rosenberg's idea. Okay. They do to fulfill needs.
Yeah.
And needs are beautiful.
Yeah.
All needs are beautiful. People want attention, or they want safety, or they want self-expression. And where we disagree is on the strategies. How to get that. So even if you take your even if you take your political enemy, you can probably agree that what you both want is a safe country.
Yeah.
And then what you're talking about is how the means to get it. And I think that the litmus test for any strategy is the golden rule. So if you want a secure country, great. You have your way, I have my way.
Yeah.
But does it treat somebody like they don't want to be treated? Then we don't do that way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the opposite of the golden rule. Do not do to someone else what you wouldn't like done to you.
Yeah.
Because people have done terrible things in the name of securing their country or in the name of safety.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with your enemy? You find out what their motive is. Because that's probably something that's understandable.
Yeah.
Even if it's for attention. You know, people want attention. People
Yeah.
want control for safety.
Yeah.
So this has been a very hard time for me to live by that. This election has brought up feelings I didn't know I had a really strong antipathy. And yesterday, there was somebody that I unfriended, and it wasn't because he was on the other side of the political spectrum. It was because he was nasty, and I was like too depressed to deal with his nasty. So I remembered his name, so I should go back and talk to him, but not today.
Yeah. Well, I like that you brought up the word empathy. So James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin.
Movie projectionist?
Movie projectionist. Yeah. He ran a cinema in Dublin, and he basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?" Years later, Faulkner says, "Sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism." So why do we as humans have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
When we go to a play, it's not our life.
Yeah.
We have the benefit of somebody else's life. But it is a play. We play with images, we're having fun.
Yeah.
Tree?
Yeah.
I'll paint a tree. I love a tree, I'll paint a tree.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah. What first attracted you? Now you're multifaceted. You're a musician, singer-songwriter, you'd say at a party first thing. What first attracted you to pursuing music? Did you grow up in a household where they were playing it live or they were playing it on records? How did you acquire your aesthetic for loving music, wanting to get into it? And then at what point did you go, oh, I can do that?
Yeah, I always loved music. I do remember the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. That was exciting. I was always playing around with music. I asked for music lessons. I got a piano at 5.
And the parents weren't saying, you should do this. You asked
No,
them.
My parents were amusical, but pro-education in general. And then when I heard Lucy and the Sky with Diamonds, it was over for me. I remember where I was standing, and the moment, the chorus where the part in the chorus where Paul comes into the harmony, I remember how I felt. I was standing in the dining room hearing that. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I was doing music before, but the Beatles were really something for me.
That was the turning point. But were your parents playing music on the radio or
No.
vinyl in the house?
No, I would watch TV and just wait for music to come up. I would wait for the Flintstones where Fred would sing or something like that. Just waiting for the theme songs. So
We have good theme
non-musical-
songs. You know
non-musical
Pentecost Junction? That's
Yeah,
a good
I do.
one.
There's a little hotel.
Good. So then, what at first attracted you to pursue energy work?
I
Did
was.
you study in college something and led to, like, maybe tell us your path. Where did you go out of high school? Did you study music and?
Some things in my life led to being an energy worker. I don't even think my family or my partner knows about it. There was somebody doing muscle testing and something called Touch for Health. I don't know if you've heard about it. He was doing it just to other Baha'is in the community to share with them. And my father, who was a scientist and a skeptic, thought it was the greatest party trick in the world. Took me to see him. And what he would do is he would hand you a carrot and then test your muscle to see if it's strong or if it's weak, and then hand you some sugar and you'd see how it goes weak. And then one day he said, okay, your midline, your energy that runs down the middle of your body, and he just kind of looked like that. He goes, I just undid it. And people were weak, and my mother and father both said, now I don't believe that. But I thought that there's something to that. There's something to that. And then years later...
Wait, what age are you at when that happened?
I was 17.
You were 17?
Yeah, I was 17. I just
Pre-college?
Pre-college,
Yeah.
yes. Before that, in high school physics, when I heard of the quantum entanglement, which means that if one particle goes negative... We have a physicist's daughter in the audience. Am I explaining quantum entanglement right?
It doesn't, that kind of knowledge does not get passed down genetically. But it's, if electrons are somehow connected, if they get separated by enormous distances, they're still connected.
Okay, they have been able to empirically verify this.
Yeah.
I heard that in physics. I thought that is wild. In the universe, that there's not just conservation of matter and conservation of energy, but there's balance of the positive and negative of the yin yang.
Yeah.
I thought that's wild, and it meant something to me. You know, almost like a religious means something to me. Then I was in Austria years later, so I'm about 27, and I hear that my father in America has cancer, and my friend who was a yoga enthusiast, I said to her, I don't know what to do, and she said, give me your arm. I'm going to test you. Does your father want to get better? And it was strong. And I'm like, okay, she's testing for me. And he's over in America. And I feel that worked. So all this kind of was somewhere in the back of my mind, like, what's going on with the world? There's more to it than we figured out. And then I got sick in '94 and used Chinese medicine, which does use energy, because the doctors said, you're going to be sick the rest of your life, and I didn't accept that. And 9 years later, I went to a bookstore and saw that there was going to be a lecture from a Chinese kung fu master. And I went to the lecture, and people were astounded at how they felt in just a few seconds of him working on the energy system like that with intention. I went to a second lecture because I'm my father's daughter, and he loved to yell, that's smoke and mirrors. I go to a third lecture, and then I volunteered to go up on stage, and being racked with physical pain was over in about 7 seconds. And I went to study it because it was wild.
That was it. It was, well, cured. Would you use the
Right
word
there.
cure? Yeah. Because
I use the word relieved.
I call it effective remedy because cure sounds kooky sometimes, but
effective remedy.
effective remedy.
So in 2003,
But, yeah.
as soon as I learned I could use it,
Yeah.
It was easy as falling off a log. And soon afterwards, I had a very dramatic incident. Somebody emailed from Mexico that her husband was a pilot. Her husband, who is a pilot, was spraying herbicides on the marijuana fields as the government asked him to, and he was shot in the head by a farmer, and he hasn't been able to speak or move the left side of his body for 14 months. And so I did what we do, which was to have in mind the problem, and then with intention send energy to activate his energy system.
Right.
Have the intention to activate his own healing. And she wrote the next morning that he moved his left hand and tried to speak, and they were able to feed him a little something. And I cried, and I was like, oh my God, this is just wonderful. And
Yeah.
so I don't turn down anybody
Yeah.
when they ask if they don't have money or
Yeah.
whatever the situation. And I hope a lot of people learn it. I hope that it spreads.
That's good. So you brought up the word intention, which was perfect because it's the next question pretty much. A screenwriting teacher told me that a great film or great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker.
Mm-hmm.
Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great film or great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. So this is funny because I'm going to ask you this question in two parts. What role does intention play in your creative process as a songwriter, and what role does intention play in your process as an energy worker?
Let me answer the energy work first, because I understand that. I don't understand the musical process. The energy worker is a work of intention, and that's what somebody's asking for when they're asking for a session. They're asking for a half an hour or an hour of my intention. And we know that all matter is energy, right? Einstein told us E equals mc squared. We know that energy is responsive to human consciousness because we get different results. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the energy is responsive to our intention, too.
Yeah.
And we've only begun to explore that.
Yeah.
So what happens during a healing session is that I put our intention on the problem and balancing the yin and the yang of the universe as it pertains to that problem.
Yeah.
And it's purely intention work. That's why I can do it on the phone.
Yeah.
I can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab a mint.
Yeah. And so then now you're a singer-songwriter, your main instrument is guitar or piano or both?
Both?
Both, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a composer. Yeah.
Composer. So when you're writing a song or composing a piece of music, what role does intention play? And because
You're asking if the intention will be transparent, because you have those two different quotes.
Right. Let's do this. Add this part. Marcel Duchamp says there's no art without an audience. What role does the audience play while you're writing the composition? Are you thinking of your audience?
No, I'm not thinking of my audience. I'm not thinking of my audience. I'm looking for what is deepest in me. When I make a video of my song and it fails to communicate what I intended, because that's a new medium to me, film, then I know I failed, because like, am I trying to bring across chaos or humor? Does
Right.
the joke feel when I'm writing a song and I write music and words at the same time, I am definitely digging deep to find out what I feel or who I am.
Yeah.
And the audience is not relevant, and at that point, I get different reactions when I perform live, and sometimes I'm like, well, nobody's connecting to this, so maybe I'll drop it from my live set, but I'll keep it on the album. I like that, for example, I've written a song called One Crow for Sorrow.
Yep.
And it was inspired by an English-Scottish verse that goes one crow for sorrow, 2 for mirth, 3 for wedding, 4 for birth, and 5 for the happiest thing on earth. One person, my bass player, thought it was set in the Old West, but it's from Scotland, and another person asked me, is that true? I like art can be completely mysterious, and it can be interpreted by people in different ways. You brought up Kubrick.
Yeah.
2001 is my favorite film. I love it. I certainly have a different interpretation from a lot of other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would spoil it if he explained it.
Oh yeah, and basically that's ambiguity. Ambiguity is an important part of art.
Yeah. So the intention. No, it's not just art if you make your intentions clear.
Well, we turned the poets off, and Auden said that the mystery of art is that we don't know if it activates or pacifies us. And that's the mystery of art.
Uh-huh.
Now, T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue, because you talked about what's inside you.
There we go.
What language is your inner dialogue in?
Geometry.
God, that is a great answer.
It looks a lot like, my inner dialogue looks a lot like Kandinsky's.
Nice.
You have colorful shapes.
Right.
And when I'm writing, this is kind of going on, but it comes out in words.
That's pretty good.
Or music.
Did you have Kandinsky geometry in your head, and then you saw Kandinsky and you go,
like,
that's it.
And I actually took apart a Kandinsky calendar, how they have 12 pages.
Yeah.
I put it all over the walls, and my kids are like, that's scary.
Yeah.
I go, no, that's me. That's how I think.
That's great. Because they do say he invented abstract art. They sort of want to point to him. But that book, didn't he write that book, Spirituality and Art or something?
I don't know that.
Oh, it's a little book. It costs like $1.50. It's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so McLuhan said that everything we invent extends some humanness. I want to say human sensorium, but let's just say humanness. So, like knife and fork is an extension of our teeth. Clothing is an extension of our skin. Film editing extends our eyelid. Electricity extends our central nervous system. Whatever. What does the piano extend for you? What
I'm going to
humanness?
say songwriting extends our speech.
Songwriting extends our speech.
That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And I think rhyme makes more impact. I think, like, Hamilton is a big show now, right?
Okay.
But you have Alexander Hamilton as the main character.
Yeah.
There's only so many ways you can sing Alexander Hamilton that goes right with the words. Alexander Hamilton.
Right.
And then the wife in there, her name is Eliza. And that's how the word is shaped, Eliza.
Yeah.
And they just accentuate. If you say the name Eliza, the middle wants to go up. When I heard Adele's song, what is it, Hello from the Other Side?
Yeah.
It sounds like a baby crying. Hello from the other side.
Yeah.
I knew right away it was going to be a hit because it just feels like the way a baby cries. So the songwriting is taking the way we think and the way we think to ourselves, especially when you have people like Leonard Cohen, rest in peace, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen.
Yes.
They take our inner dialogue about our experience and filter it, and gives us another slice so that we can see reality a different way.
Yeah.
It helps us. It helps us understand our emotions.
You brought up earlier, like seeing it a new way, new eyes or new ears. Yeah.
Yeah, we need that so bad.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we crustify. Our brain will just get in a rut. We'll pull this a little bit closer.
My favorite people on the Venice Boardwalk are called crusties.
Yeah, what do they do?
Well, they're the Trustafarian kids who have patches and they smell bad, and they have dogs and
Crusties.
frosty hair, and they're called crusties because they have so much dirt, they're crusty. And they have a whole range. There's some of them are aristocrust.
Aristocrats, I love that.
But basically they're ghetto punks, but they're great people, you know. Okay, you brought up a thing that I never talk about, and I love this quote by McLuhan, and I just want to, not that I agree or disagree with it, but it's interesting. And he said, song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language differences.
Yes.
You would agree?
I would agree. And
Yeah.
there's some science behind that. Tufts University put out a course that I just watched about music in the brain. And preferences in music seem to come from a language base. And the reason that we like music at all seems to come from the fact that human speech and just the vocal mechanism produces certain overtones. And when we reproduce those pleasant overtones in music, then we experience it as nice. Animals don't like the same music as us.
Yeah.
There's monkey music and cat music and other things that they're finding out.
Interesting.
So, it does come from speech.
Yeah.
I love being a songwriter because I have
Yeah.
the music to accentuate the speech. Another thing that I do is calligraphy,
Yep.
and that's accentuation of the speech too.
Yeah.
And so I love someone like you who is replete with quotes from all these fantastic
Oh,
thinkers.
well, thank you.
Ivan Illich and all these people
I'm
I
lucky.
love.
Well,
You must have a great memory.
thank you. I try. I think I got it from being raised a Roman Catholic. In high school, we had a Latin class every day,
Mm-hmm.
and I got straight A's. But I cannot tell you anything Latin now. But I probably learned some sort of memory. Like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to memorize for tomorrow's test.
Oh,
That's
wow,
the
so you
only way.
trained,
I've
trained.
tried to figure out how I remembered these. But anyways, LA Times obit on Leonard Cohen
Yeah.
said something like, literary ambitious songwriter dies. Like, and so, and you know, Bob winning the Nobel Prize.
Bob,
By the
your
way,
friend Bob.
but by the way, did you
Yeah.
know this? 40 years ago, there's a tape of Bob Dylan saying, "I'm just a rock and roll singer. I ain't gonna win no Nobel Prize." Is that how you pronounce it? He literally says, like he's not literate. you
Yeah,
know.
I love it.
But what, you know, and so we talked about that, and you write lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
What is the function of poetry?
What is the function of poetry?
Yeah.
It's the flower of language. It's the best.
But wait, those are descriptive. But
What?
what's the function?
I think the function of poetry is to make words that give you an experience that transcends words.
That transcends words itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You leave it alone, you're left with an impression.
Yeah.
And there, I lost the thing I was going to reference. It was
But you basically you quoted.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
I don't remember which poet said, but it makes you appreciate the ordinary differently. But I
Yeah.
think poetry itself, the experience is, it takes you somewhere. You know what's very interesting is that words in poetry or words in song don't even have to follow a regular grammatical structure
Right.
to have the impact. They can be word salad like I
Yeah.
am the walrus
Yeah.
and still make an impression. Paul McCartney said the saddest lyric he ever heard was sitting on a cornflake waiting for a van to come, which is an isolated piece of I am the walrus that doesn't connect to anything else. But you know, that is the saddest lyric.
Say the word.
Sitting on a cornflake waiting for the van to come.
VAN.
Van,
Waiting
yeah.
for the van to come. Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah.
That's all you got to sit on is a cornflake.
Well, that's also back to T.S. Eliot. He said that poetry can communicate before it's understood.
Yeah.
So that's like, I can listen to a Brazilian song. I don't know what they're singing about, but it can move me. You
What's
know.
amazing is that
Yeah.
people can think that it means different things and it
Right.
can still mean something to them.
Like, have you heard the tuba throat singers?
Yeah. I
Yeah, you
have.
know, they sing with
That's
three
amazing.
voices. You know what they sing about? Three things: horses, boots, and snow.
No
But you
way.
can like go into transcendental.
Horses,
you know-
boots, and stuff.
That's all they're. But you don't know. They're just. And you're like, whoa, and it's like, you know.
I thought it was something metaphysical.
Right.
Because it's from Tibet, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
this is
horses,
really
boots,
fun.
and
I
stuff.
appreciate this time, Nedi, and let's stay on music for a few more minutes then. Thelonious Monk says there are no wrong notes.
Was it Monk who said that?
Yeah, Eddie, comment?
Yeah. I think the whole quote is there are no wrong notes. It depends on what note you play after that. We have a piano here.
Yeah.
wanna
You mean
hear
it depends on what note it's juxtaposed with that matters?
No,
Oh,
the note after it.
after the
It-
wrong note.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it justifies it. Can
Yeah.
I go to the piano?
Sure.
Yeah. Does it work?
Yeah.
Okay. There's something nasty here. Fairly nasty.
Yeah.
Watch this. Marina, I just went.
Oh my
Still
God.
nasty?
That is not nasty
That's
now.
not nasty anymore. So I think the whole quote is there are no wrong notes.
Yeah.
Depends on the note you play after it. And I have tried to understand that and tell my children too that that could be a metaphor for life.
Wow.
Yeah, watch this. He left me. Boom. He left me, and I went out and found a place I love to live. Or, he left me, and I'm happier than ever. Or, he left me, and I found the man I'm really supposed to be with. So,
Now wait, who are you quoting?
am I
You-
quoting?
You're just making those
I'm
lines
making
up?
those up.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so if you
Got it.
got to take a sad song and make it better.
Right.
If you have a,
Right,
we're in quote heaven here.
right.
We have, if you have a bad thing happen, it depends what happens next.
What's the function of music?
To express what can't be said in words.
Yeah. John Cage said it's to soothe the soul and make it you susceptible for divine intervention.
I'll buy that.
You buy that one too?
Yeah. I can't live without it. It's very,
Yeah.
very different when there's music. And I don't mean background music.
Yeah. Well, my
Because-
thing is you can't. The saddest thing, and this is again making a value judgment about an invention, is we ruin music by having recording devices. So our friend has the history of every medium to record music,
Mm-hmm.
and he will say, "Did we ruin music?" He goes, "Yes," but he doesn't. He knows He knows what I mean by ruin. We didn't ruin it. We changed it. Yeah, we changed it because we can be lonely in our room and play a cassette tape of some music,
Yeah.
and it's a ritual and it feels like it's live. But the whole thing of music is the live event. So it's just how we deal and cope with how music has changed us.
Well, thank God we have recordings. Thank God we can watch what Prince and Bowie did.
Yeah.
When I went to Las Vegas last couple times, there was music just pouring everywhere.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yeah.
As a musician, you appreciate music
Yeah.
intellectually also,
Yeah.
and so it's a lot of mental stimulation when music's playing.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's funny because the next question is, what was the motive of the cave artist? And I'm not saying like you studied cultural anthropology or saw Herzog's film and this is what your intuition, right, what your intuition says was the motive of the cave artist. And the interesting thing is we don't have documents of cave art, of cave dance or cave music. We don't have physical recordings, but we actually have what we claim to be, this is cave art. So what do you think their motive was?
I think it's the same as ours.
ours now, which is
Just the joy of creating.
yeah,
People say that Joseph Campbell said that they did it to make peace with the fact that they were slaughtering animals, or other people say the shadows on the wall, it seemed animated, or it was part of magic functions, or ritual functions in other ways. They were probably dancing and making music too.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, bone flutes and drums are older than those paintings, but they're beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about them now that you brought it
Yeah.
up. They're really beautiful.
Well, there was this woman wrote this book called "Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll: The Search of Hedonism and the Hedonism of Science."
The hedonism of science.
Yeah. The question was, what's more fundamental, language or music?
Wow.
What would you say?
Define fundamental.
Right. Good. You answered a question with a question. Can we think without language?
Yes. Animals do.
Good. So.
We do when we dream. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't have the ticker tape of life.
Yeah.
Children before 7
Yeah.
don't have the ticker tape of thoughts. So telling a 6-year-old to think before they act was like,
That's like the Marx Brothers were in a jam, and Chico says, "We got to think," and the Groucho said, "We already tried that."
Who was the man who wrote the book Touch? It was Aldous something.
Aldous Huxley? No. And what he said? Well,
He said, I never met somebody under 7 that wasn't interesting.
yeah.
Under 7 years
Wow.
old. Makes you think about the schooling system.
So Aaron Copland, he says, Copland in 1939 wrote a book called What to Listen For in
Yeah,
Music.
I read that. Yeah.
He said there's 4 major elements of music: rhythm, melody, harmony, and tone color. I get the first 3, but could you put in layman's terms or layperson's terms, what is tone color?
I'm going to go back to the piano.
Yeah.
Same note is produced differently on a flute,
Yeah.
a trumpet. And if you heard it, you would know which one what it is. This is a D. And now it's a if you close your eyes, you can tell who it was. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a different tone color.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Tone color.
Yeah.
What's another word for tone color?
Timbre.
Timbre. That's it.
Timbre. And if you want to hear a very good example of tone color, listen to Ravel's Bolero.
Yeah.
The very simple melody goes from instrument to instrument, and not too much else happens in there, but it's gorgeous.
Right. I know that. That's good.
Enjoy that, and you got about 9 minutes of different timbres.
Right. So Dave Liebman played saxophone with Miles Davis. He divides it into 3 things: head, heart, and hand. That's
Why divided?
Yeah, why divided? But a friend of mine also, why divide is a great response. But a friend of mine also says that making music, or he says playing guitar, is the 3 T's: theory, technique, and taste. So you can learn theory, you can learn technique, but can you learn taste? Or how would you say you've learned taste in music?
I'm going to answer your question sideways. The taste part is also a function of discrimination and exposure and experience. And older musicians may lose a bit of dexterity. I saw Dizzy Gillespie at the end of his life. And I was with a trombone player, and he goes, I can't play as fast as he used to. And I go, like, you wish that he could play as slow as this guy plays. But an older musician will have nuance. Janis Joplin said of Bessie Smith that she can sing A to B, and you feel the whole alphabet in between.
That is great.
So it's nuance, it's discrimination. Yeah. The taste. I've talked about this with my son. The artistic drive is a real desire and taste that somebody has. You're always chasing that as an artist.
Yeah.
His field is visual art, and my field is music. But your taste is always better than where you're at, and you're always trying to improve because you can tell what's better.
That's good. How about, is taste close to the word aesthetic?
That's how you were using it.
Think so? Yeah.
Is that what you meant?
I don't know. I always just am curious that he divided guitar playing into the 3 T's, and I'm always curious because I think taste can be acquired. I listened to a lot of blues music growing up, and then I never played it. Then I started playing it by myself, and then I really didn't get it until I played it with other people.
Yeah.
So I think, that taste is acquired through listening and doing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Experience.
Yeah, experience,
Yeah.
So good. You brought up an important word. This is back to another line that McLuhan says that I'm curious how you would interpret this. Everybody experiences far more than they understand, yet it is experience rather than understanding that influences behavior. The way I'll tell you how I interpret that, and then you tell me how you would interpret it.
Was that McLuhan?
That's McLuhan. This is how I interpret it. It doesn't mean I got it right. If you're a parent and you say to your child, when you come in from the cold, the stove has heat. And for me to help you learn the dynamics of heat, you can get really close to the burner and warm your hands up. That's understanding the dynamics of heat.
Okay.
Rather than the parent can come in, don't touch the stove, it'll burn your hand. That's experience. That's like touch stove, burn hand. So he's saying understanding should shape our behavior, but experience does. We rely more on experience than understanding.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking of understanding as more of a mental thing, more of a language thing, or the thing that you could reproduce, whereas experience is associations, and that's largely how the brain works.
Yeah.
Association, association, association. 2 Christmases back, I was in a frightening accident. I was injured in a frightening accident in the carpool lane, and we drove here today on the carpool lane, and boy, did I have associations with the carpool lane. And this guy's getting into the carpool lane illegally, and I had a visceral reaction. Is like, that's how I got my leg broken. It was somebody getting into the carpool lane illegally. So the experience, I think the associations shape us like a dog who doesn't like people with uniforms. I think those experiences shape us a lot unconsciously.
Right. And Nedi, what's more important, conviction or compromise? God, I love when people laugh.
I love that you polarize so many things.
Yeah, and of course it depends, and that's usually it's back to your first answer, context. But just in general, what's more important, conviction?
I think if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. But if you look at your daily life, almost all of us are living with other people, and that's a compromise situation. We're working with other people. That's a compromise situation. So it's interesting what form your convictions can take. It's actually pretty easy for an artist to go, okay, here are my convictions. I think the proof of convictions comes up when they're challenged. Do you have the courage of your convictions? And then when we talk about compromise, do you have empathy enough? Conviction without just being alone and not connecting with other people doesn't really move the society forward, which is the reason to have convictions in the first place.
Yeah.
If you can't connect with people, you won't be taking action. John Lennon say, putting your soul power to the karmic wheel. In mind games, that's really what we want to do. We want to move together towards for a more inclusive and equal society. That's what I care about.
That's a great word. Inclusivity. Thank you. Yeah, and back to artists. One person says the job of the artist is to attempt to sell out but fail.
Was that Zappa again?
No, that's Paul Schrader, but he says, I didn't say this, but I'll take credit for it. And it's funny because I quoted it for years. I changed it to the role of the artist. And then I finally
What
Googled
was it originally?
He says the job of the artist is to attempt to sell it. So in that regard, you've accomplished a lot. You've got a sealed copy of your book there. You got two.
I got two CDs.
And you have you've raised kids. You've done a lot.
I would show them for the.
Oh, nice. So this question is: when it comes to accomplishments in your life, how do you rate these three elements: luck, skill, and ambition? What played the biggest role, second and third?
Ambition.
Ambition is your first.
Skill, and then luck. Because you really got to make it happen. You got to.
Yeah.
I think I want to put on a show.
Yeah.
Or I have something to say.
Good.
So that's ambition.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily put me above somebody else.
Yeah.
My desire is to have a creation,
Yeah.
to have a finished creation.
And this question is just in general, not you specifically. Is ambition for humans in general more based on fear or more based on joy?
Ambition? I've
Yeah.
never thought that.
Is ambition based
Yeah.
more on fear or more on joy?
I would think fear.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, but this is a different kind of ambition than the ambition to create a project.
Yeah.
That's the ambition to be over people, or to be in a safer strata of society.
Yeah.
There's also a Baha'i quote from
Yeah.
Baha'i scriptures that says ambition is an aberration in the sight of God. So to try and get top of the human pile is not something that that my religion or my personal value system thinks is the latter decline, is the thing to want. Yeah, I think people are trying to escape threat and also be in the position where they're treated with respect and honor, which it would be so nice if everybody was treated as valuable as they are. That's why we love star stories. That's why we love the Cinderella stories. Because we feel that we all have that inside. We're all sweeping the ashes, and we're worth dancing with the prince. And
that's well put. Is perception reality?
No, not at all. Sam Keen, the philosopher, said, "You want to have your mind blown? Have you and a sibling draw a picture of the house that you grew up in and explain what happened in each room." There's almost no overlap.
Yeah.
And we see 8% of the electromagnetic spectrum. We don't see X-rays. We don't see ultraviolet rays. We don't see infrared rays. And your perception can change. There's even trauma therapy that asks you to remember your memory differently until it's a new memory.
Right.
Okay, like, so my car didn't crash. I adjusted when we came in there.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very malleable.
Yeah.
And you got your own personal filters, coming in.
Is loyalty based on reason?
Could be. Loyalty has a bad name these days. It's a better word for conservatives than liberals, and there might even be a genetic basis for that. You know about that?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
For being liberal or conservative people or conservative babies are less active and more fearful. Is loyalty based on reason?
Yeah.
This is very interesting because we have to have some loyalty to keep society together.
Yeah.
And that's reasonable.
Yeah.
That also pertains to our current election. It will be wild to see what happens.
Why is it so difficult for humans to consider the possibility that life may be pointless?
That question kind of answers itself, doesn't it?
It's
because life is hard.
There you go. Yeah.
It's because life is hard.
Yeah.
And our brain structure, we experience the negative much more strongly and remember it much more strongly. I mean, we're taking for granted that the chairs that we sit on are going to hold us.
Right.
We're not having any joy. Oh, the chair is holding me. If we enjoyed everything that there is to enjoy, then maybe that wouldn't be such a terrible thing. But
Yeah.
life is hard the way that.
Yep.
So.
Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things
Before
breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us one?
Mm-hmm. The multiverse is getting used more and more popularly, not just by physicists, but by people. And the Rolling Stone Bruce Springsteen interview that I read this morning, the interviewer asked Bruce Springsteen from New Jersey, is there another lifetime where you just stayed in a bar band, like in a parallel universe? So I don't know if that's an impossible thing or that's just a thing that my mind doesn't really have the capacity to understand that there might be parallel universes going on.
Yeah.
A universe where he didn't leave me, where I was as famous as John Lennon, or married Paul McCartney, or whatever, whatever happened. Maybe both.
Pretty good. So tell me one major element of your music creating, songwriting, that's changed since you've started, and one major element that stayed the same.
What stayed the same is I'm looking for a context that has hope. That stayed the same. I feel strongly that, or it has been my experience. I don't think this is out of thin air. That people behave differently when there's hope, and when I feel like writing about it, that's meaningful to me. Something that's changed is I've gotten grittier. I'm revealing more of the worst of me, and also I have a lot more whimsical attitude towards it. So I can talk about what my grandmother said about the 70 years of trauma. I can let that be there, and I can joke about it.
Yeah.
So being hopeful, I don't have to be the Osmond brothers. Again, all of it. Again, John Lennon, he was not afraid to be naked in many senses, and that made us accept his hopeful music, the Imagine, the Mind Games, as sincere, because he meant it.
Well,
that's an interesting question.
Yeah, well, he was a fan of James Joyce, and specifically Finnegan's Wake, and Joyce invented a word that sort of encapsulates what you said, Laughtears. So he changed the word laughter to include the word tears. That's what we do. We laugh and we cry. And then you go to Gurdjieff, he said laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So, it's sort of that embracing contradiction. In fact, I'm someone who really finds it hard because people misunderstand Frank Zappa often and don't realize he was really an exemplary example of Zen because he embraced contradiction.
Yeah.
Yes, it's good.
Wow.
So talking about that, Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says
that's where I'm going next week.
Yeah, he says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Can you tell us a weakness that you've incorporated to become a strength?
Sensitivity. I can empathize with a lot of different viewpoints. Maybe it was an early training to explore different religions. I'm not sure, but I can empathize
But how was that a weakness?
How was that a weakness?
You mean
Oh,
you
I've
were
been
too
absolutely
sensitive?
I'm still pretty darn sensitive.
And then how's that become a strength?
I didn't transform it, but I use it to connect with people. I use it to teach. I teach music also to children with different learning styles, including autism and other situations. Yeah. So I am still too sensitive. I've tried to watch the Godfather movie about 6 times. I mean, I'm a big film fan. I have to see The Godfather.
You know what? Just watch it with this commentary.
With the commentary?
Yeah.
They stabbed the guy in the hand. I got to leave the room.
I know.
That's in the beginning of the movie. So, I didn't work on it to change it into an ability to connect with people, but it is double-sided. I don't know if there's a weakness that I've turned into a strength.
Well, no, that was good. I understood. But you know what's interesting, Nedi? We first connected at a party where we started talking about
what
autism.
Were you talking about? Oh, really?
And bipolar and what you just called it was different learning styles. Yeah. And my sister's in this movement deep, the disability movement. And every week it seems it changes.
There's a new way.
Yeah, like you can't say retard. You can't say it. It's a word.
Okay.
You know, and whenever
yeah,
but it's like, of course we learn that words can work better sometimes here or there, but they tend to hate words. And so I says, what's the latest? You know, I'm always trying to get that. I says, different learning styles. That's great because disability.
There's also diffability, different ability.
But my favorite is neurodiversity. Have you heard that one?
Yes, this is really, really, really important. When we understand neurodiversity, if everybody understood neurodiversity, there wouldn't be normal people and mentally different people.
Right.
Because neurodiversity affects all of us. Some of us are math phobic.
Yeah.
Some of us
think
like Kandinsky.
We're all different.
We can't help but be very, very neurodiverse.
We're all neurodiverse, and that's
very,
like
neurodiverse.
When I'm talking with my sister, I'm so much on guard. Like, well, that person's crazy. It's like you can't. They're mad, you know. And so like,
the reason that we have that we have special education is because we made this concrete block of education that fits only a certain amount of people, and we break them and mold them, and now I'm going to start singing Another Brick in the Wall.
And it's like McLuhan had the great line, you can't prove you're sane unless you have discharge papers from the mental hospital. So it's like my friend goes, I do, and they're framed. See, I'm sane. I was discharged.
I love that he framed it. I love that he framed it.
So we're at the official point where I'm supposed to ask the audience for questions. But before I do that, and then we'll turn to the audience if they have a question or more. But we have about 30 more minutes, so you willing?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I love these questions.
So how do you find peace of mind?
Acceptance. I'm very satisfied to be alone, but Eckhart Tolle said, if you can't be enthusiastic, then try and enjoy it. If you can't find enjoyment, then try to find acceptance. And what I use is I'm resting into the situation.
That's good.
And I'm very body oriented. I'm going to study some Feldenkrais next week.
Yeah.
I'm going to Big Sur with the famous Elma Meyer.
Very cool.
My back is resting into the situation. I'm resting my feet into the situation. Whatever catches my attention.
Good. Nedi, if you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Relax. Relax, really.
That's simple.
I try so hard. I try so hard to be a good girl. I was thinking about that yesterday. I'm going to have to stop trying to be a good girl.
Yeah.
In the nice girl kind of mode.
You want to be a nasty woman?
There you go.
You know, I work the polls, and you can't come in with a Hillary or Trump T-shirt in the polls.
Right.
But there are women coming in with a T-shirt that said "nasty woman."
Right.
Now, who's to say who's that for? Yeah. You know, is that a Trump shirt or a pro-Hillary shirt?
Pretty quick.
Should toilet paper come off the roll or under the roll? Over or under?
Over.
Why over?
Comes out easier.
Okay. If a publisher was to release your autobiography, just off the top of your head, what would the title be?
A Bastard Daughter of John and Yoko.
Oh my God. And then they want to scent the glue and the binding. What smell would it be?
Rosewater.
If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Turds.
That is good. I don't know if I've had that answer, but where would it be displayed?
Well, you know, I'm going to Big Sur, and Esalen just about my favorite place, but I don't want to put a turd statue there.
How about at the Henry Miller Library across the street? I know the guy. He probably would like that.
No, I don't think I deserve a statue.
Okay.
I don't think I deserve a statue. You can put it in Pepperland, where the yellow submarine went.
Very good. Okay. Nedi, we're going to continue on, but at this point I want to thank you so much.
What a wonderful bunch of questions.
Okay, do you guys have any questions or comments?
No questions yet. I'd just like to absorb before I ask a question.
Okay, go ahead, Alma. Anything?
Did you script this out beforehand?
Good question.
I didn't. Have you ever heard any of my...
No, I purposely didn't.
That's nice of you,
look
because for years, people would say, they would sometimes, Van Dyke Parks, for instance, said, "Oh,
Yeah,
I've got to see you nail someone before me." And I goes, "I don't nail people, it's fun." So, and then one guy who I really respect, William Popel, said, "Yeah, I have to have the questions," or his publicist said, "I have to have the questions in advance." And I hated that, but I wanted to interview him so bad, I sent him. And then I asked him, "Dude, I've never done that, and I never don't want to." And he goes, "I didn't read them." But people
You just want to make sure you had
But
questions.
people have, like my mom said, if you ask me these questions today, I might answer them differently tomorrow. And I goes, "That's fine."
That's fine.
So let's carry on. This is one of my favorite questions, and again, I'm always trying to reword them or get the wording right. So Joseph Boyes says, "Make the secrets productive." And then Lou Welsh, a beat poet, said, "Guard the secrets, but constantly reveal them." But Thornton Wilder actually nailed it. He said, "Art is confession. Art is the desire to tell the secret and hide it at the same time."
That's beautiful.
Isn't that amazing? So I used to say, what role does secrets play in your creative process? Then I started saying to people like you who have been articulate from the start point, I would say, "Nedi, you've really been articulate. What's it really all about for you?" But that implies that you haven't been that honest for the last 90 minutes. So you see what I'm saying? It's a hard... now I've rationaled it. It doesn't come off as real. But the basic question is, keeping in mind that Thornton Wilder, that we're out there revealing it and hiding at the same time, and you're so articulate, you can tell this to us all in 90 minutes. What's it really all about for you?
I have been honest. I do want to make a comment. I want to quote Bono.
Yeah.
This is like quote wars between you and me.
Quote wars.
I got a quote for that.
Yeah, I know.
Bono said, "An entertainer conceals, an artist reveals."
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so at the time, Michael Jackson and Prince were up for a Grammy.
Yeah.
Prince won. And that's Bono's now artist reveals. And if the artist reveals and we see some of ourselves, we understand ourselves better.
Yeah.
And somebody said after David Bowie and Prince's death, which both happened this year, We love them not because we know them, but because we know ourselves better for their work. And that's what you were talking about with art.
Yeah.
Actually, Arthur Kessler said that science is two planes of information.
Yeah.
And they dovetail. That's science.
Yeah.
If they contradict, that's humor. If one reveals a line, if there's two planes, reveals a bit, then that's art.
Oh my God.
That's why we need somebody else's story of a family dysfunction.
Yeah.
We have family dysfunction because we see it a little bit different, and it reveals something. So what role does secrets play?
Well, you explained it up there. That was good.
It's interesting. It's interesting knowing what to reveal or what to, you know.
But let's
I have
go
a family. I can't reveal.
Right. Well, let's go to this one then. Oscar. Well, this is Oscar Wilde. No, this is Pruse's question from they ask it every last page of Vanity Fair. On what occasion do you lie?
What occasion do I lie? Sometimes when I'm teaching and they've played something bad, I usually find myself saying that's not bad before I say anything else. And when I've said that's not bad, that's when I know it was really bad.
Right.
So that just comes out.
That's like Manders. Waits has a great answer. He says, Tom Waits says, on what occasion do you lie? He says, I didn't know I needed an occasion.
That's great.
But one answer I really enjoyed was, I don't want to lie, but on what occasion do I lie and it bugs me was when I lie to myself.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty epic.
Do we know when we lie to ourselves?
Right. Well, that's called double bind. That's Gregory Bateson. Pay no attention to me.
Bateson.
Pay no attention to me that I'm lying to you. And we do that all the time to other people, but we also do it to ourselves.
It's really hard to know when you're lying to yourself because you're usually doing it to...
Yeah. I've got one that follows up on what you just said, too, that I really want to ask you. And you sort of answered this, but George Manupelli's a experimental filmmaker guy. He says his mantra is ignore yourself. And Jonas Mekas says there is no self-expression. So basically the question is, and Cecil Taylor also, he says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. So the question is art making more self-expression or more you're just a vehicle for whatever culture or technology is dominant?
Yes.
Yes, it's both.
Yes.
Yeah. Can art making be egoless?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. That is good. I've had people go, no, great art is egoless. So that was sort of what you're saying. You got the universality of art thing, but then you got the specifics with that Arthur quote. How do you spell that?
Kessler.
How do you spell it?
Koestler.
That is an amazing.
Yeah, and I believe he's a history of science.
That is right up my alley. Now I want to ask you 5 Alan Watts questions. These are just like one-offs.
These will be tough.
Who started it all?
Who lit the fuse on the Big Bang? Who started it all? Lucy.
That's good. You mean I Love Lucy? Or
no, I mean the Lucy that was the first hominid.
Right. No, I know.
Stood up. I went to see the Bones 2 years ago. I went with my family and I almost wept. Not because she was dead, but because she existed.
Right. Next, Alan Watts question: are we going to make it?
Yes. But not all of us.
Okay.
Climate change is tough. There's going to be disasters.
Where do we put it?
Where do we put it?
Yeah.
In our hearts. What are you talking about?
Oh, that's good. Who's cleaning it up?
Our kids.
Oh, and is it serious?
No.
Right on.
I tell my kids to pray every day, even if there's no God, just so that they know what they want deepest, and to play every day to know that it's all a joke.
That's good.
What does courage mean to you now?
It means risking disapproval, because it's easy to believe in something until you care about the opinion of somebody sitting across from you, and you're afraid to contradict them. So, courage means risking disapproval.
What is the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
I think women want to get along with those around them more and more, are more conscious of that. The men do the fight or flight, and the women do the tend and mend under stress.
Tend and mend.
Yes,
that is
under
good.
stress, they're going to make sure everybody has a sweater and a sandwich. And like in our family, I'm the one who just filled the earthquake containers to make sure that we're okay if there's an earthquake.
Right.
But if there was a burglar in the house, I'd ask my brother to go check who was.
Right.
Because he's a big man.
There you go. That's smart. Why do women live longer than men?
I don't think that that's a philosophical question. I think that's just a
Physical.
physical thing.
Yeah.
Okay, you do have to take into account also that men are in riskier
Right.
situations
I get that answer.
and
yeah.
and really aren't allowed to share their emotions. There's a book called Self-Made Man about a woman who posed as a man, unable to talk and express her emotions when she was posing as a man. Almost killed her. She almost went crazy. She started cutting. So it gave me great empathy. I wanted the men in my life to read it, and they all said, "I don't need to read a book on how tough it is to be a man."
Yeah.
So none of them read it.
Tell me something good you never had and you never wanted.
What?
Tell me something good you never had and you never wanted. You never had it and you never want it, but it's good.
Being able to do a cartwheel.
It's good. You never were able to do a cartwheel and you don't want it.
You don't want
Very
it.
good. That's a good answer. I haven't had that.
What would be an example that people would say?
Oh, I've got a pile of great answers.
Really?
One is Johnny Carson was asking. He goes, "I don't know what it is, but when you find out, tell me." No, the best answer probably was an expensive funeral. It's good. Never had it. Never wanted it.
That's great.
But I mean, it's just you know where the root of it is. It's NLP.
Oh, okay.
It's NLP question, and you watch which way their eyes go. Then you figure out, oh, they're this type or that type.
You
And
what
I
did
just
you learn
took
from
it out
them?
of context, and I just goes, I think it's a fun question.
What did you watch my eyes? Did you?
No,
watch
I don't use it in that
Okay.
context. But you know what? But most people say, actually, I'm sorry, those were the cute answers. The three answers I get the most, tell me something good you never had, you never want, are fame, money, and heroin. Those in what it is it's what's on your mind.
Uh-huh.
You know, sort of.
Uh-huh.
That's what some people say. How to interpret.
I did have money for a short while, and it
Yeah.
wasn't that different.
Yeah.
I was
Well.
married to a millionaire, so it was about 3 years with lots of money. It was hardly different. And somebody asked me when it was over, because it exploded suddenly, what was different? And I said, that the classical music station was on all the time. So there was this kind of
Right.
diamond commercial kind of
Yeah.
Baroque music going on. And then I went over to the radio, turned on KUSC. It was like, oh, I can do that. Radio's free. It wasn't that different,
Yeah.
was it? It wasn't that different.
Yeah, well, it was.
Well, we still have 15 minutes, so again, if any of you have any comments or questions, please raise your hand. But I still have more questions, but please don't hesitate to join in.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to walk closer so I'm caught on the recording.
Yeah.
you're an audio artist, but you have repeatedly dabbled in visual mediums. What makes you transfer to different mediums?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's probably the way my brain works, as I said, with shapes. And I love animation, and I'm proud that you're an animator. But you know, I love the Chuck Jones where he has the dot and the line, where he has the abstractions. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
I forget the author, but it's Chuck Jones. Cartoon. That's amazing.
Yeah, with the dot and the line,
Yeah.
and the line's trying to make a squiggle and stuff like that. I think that way. I don't have any skill in visual art, and this is very funny.
I beg to differ.
I don't have any skill. I have almost no experience, and I won't get any. I won't learn anything, because when I dance, there's a part of me going like, "Are you using all the levels? Are you using the four tones?" When I sing, I can. So when I do anything, music or dance, or criticizing myself. So when I don't want to do nothing, I take out pastels or crayons and just play without the teacher part of me going on. And I only do this a couple times a year, but I made this fantastic glitter thing just out of shapes I could make, like circles and lines and stuff like that, and I called it Starman. And then I was done, and I went on Facebook, found out that David Bowie had died, and so I made my Starman picture just of the stars and stuff like that. We owe a lot to those. We owe a lot to the artists. They're really part of our life.
Oh yeah. Why are most artists liberal?
Because conservatism values holding the past and keeping the past, which is good. Society needs enough of those to keep order. You know, we have a constitution for a reason. But to create is to recombine. And so I think that the desire to look at things differently and to recombine won't just be for a visual or musical field. It will be in general.
Yeah.
The desire to reframe and recombine. So I'm not sure a liberal has the chance to expand their mind to different things, but that's my guess.
Yeah. What's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Having a right and having a responsibility. Those are different things.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
A right means that it's yours. A responsibility means that even though it's yours, how you deal with other people is part of the package.
Yeah. What's the difference between rebellion and revolution?
In a revolution, the whole thing changes. Rebellion can be impotent. It can be. It can have no effect at all, except declaring that you're not part of the existing system. Revolution would change the actual system. I've been talking a lot.
Yeah. Well, we're getting down to the last 5 minutes, so Nedi, just a couple more. Since we're on politics for a few more minutes. Utah Phillips said that our anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Any comment?
Well, anarchy was not making rules.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's an anarchist.
Yeah.
Deeply, truly, unless you take off your clothes and you're eating the trees in the woods, because we depend on each other very much.
Yeah.
We depend on each other for food, for shelter, everything we have.
Yeah.
We are a communal animal, and as individualistic as Americans are in their mentality, we really move as a culture, as a unit. as a family. Those without a family don't do very well at all.
Yeah. And what's
There's a question.
Oh, go ahead, Derek.
Sorry about the lateness.
No,
I'm
that's
out of town. So excited to see that you're speaking here.
Thank you.
But I read that you do the remote energy healing,
Absolutely.
and you mentioned only in the 2 minutes I was here that there wasn't a God. And I was wondering what medium you use for the remote enery healing, because I read a lot of Ernest Holmes,
Yes.
The Science of Mind, and
Yes,
I was
there we go.
wondering if you use any methods within Science of Mind in order to heal, or other types of remote energy transference.
That is a really good question.
Good.
There's another energy healer that calls the energy healing focused prayer. I'd say it's a prayer without a religion, more like the universal mind that we're addressing. I talked before about the fact that all the electrons are connected. If one changes, another one instantly somewhere else has to flip from positive to negative. Their existence in the world. So, in my mind, that's what I use: the 0 point field or the universal mind. And of course, there might be a God. I told my children to pray even if there is no God. So,
Do you believe that universal mind is the creative impetus, the energy force, and the substance and all the stuff we're made out of and everything it's made out of is separate, or is it all combined into one?
it feels like one to me. I don't have the last word, but I'm kind of a monist, that there is only one thing, and it's fantastic, and it's sacred, and it's mysterious, and we are it.
And you use that universal mind to send your energy, or
Not to send my energy, but to invoke the energy to correct and to balance. Is there a healing issue that you would like me to address now?
there's way too many for way too many for everybody.
Yeah, but this is going to end in 5 minutes, but you guys can still hook
Okay.
up, definitely.
Okay.
Daryl's one of our great participants.
Okay.
But let's just close with these, and Daryl, those were excellent. Let's close with these two, and we're out of here. Thank you, Nedi, for your time.
Thank you.
It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you.
What's the healthiest cultural shift you see developing today?
The liberal inclusion of the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
Because our personal signals for finding mates and figuring out who's male and female and who's straight and who's not is very deeply embedded, and that we can intellectually have passed over this, and it is something that's changed in me in the last 20 years, and say, yeah, there are as many different kinds of sexuality as there are people.
Yeah.
Just as Robert Anton Wilson says, when we realize there are 6 billion religions, then we'll really understand religion, because we can't possibly all think the same way. So I think that that's a very big shift. And I will wear a safety pin. In fact, I took them out today, a gold one and a silver one, to indicate to people that if they're being harassed, that I'm a safe person, and they can come be by me. This is becoming a thing, like the red ribbon. You wear a safety pin, you're safe with me, whether you're wearing a hijab or something like that.
Oh, that's
I
good.
will protect you from harassment in as much as I can.
Oh, that is good. And the last question, Nedi, thank you, is what gives you the most optimism?
Children was the first thing that came to mind.
You know, that's the answer I get the most, is youth. Sure. Nedi, what a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bravo
you.
to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
That was good.